Project here. I just picked up the Bachmann Southern Pacific 4449. It's a steam engine. I don't have the other part laying here right now. That's actually it there. Haven't even bothered taking that out of the box yet, because I'm mainly working on the decoder installation. So these are a DCC factory equipped engine. So they do come with the factory Bachmann decoder here, which I've already taken off. And I'm just going to show you some of the things that I'm doing here to put sound in this. So I decided to pick up one of these new Soundtraxx Econami decoders. From what I've heard of the sound samples, the horn for this actually sounded probably the most realistic I've heard. This has kind of a Hancock 3-chime of some sort. It's very similar to the Union Pacific. That's on 844. And also on 3985 also. Very similar sounding to that. So based on that, I decided to pick up one of these, which is actually only around $63. Pretty neat. So some of the things I'm doing here is the factory light board kind of comes pre-installed in the middle here. That just kind of unscrews from there. So also, there are already some holes in here, which I guess is for the speaker. So what I'm going to do in that area is, this is an ESU speaker here, 28 millimeter. So in this area here, I actually already removed one of the little posts here that the board was originally mounted to. And with that room here, I'm going to now be able to place this baffle kind of right smack in the middle there, which means I'm going to relocate the board back to probably just over this weight plate here with some two-sided tape. And then all of the factory wiring that'll kind of get tucked around the speaker. And then in the front way here, I'm probably going to place the decoder here. Now, one interesting thing with this decoder is they do give you an optional capacitor, which is this little guy here. And there's really no good reason not to use this. This is kind of like your keep alive function. So the interesting thing about this is it's a relatively small one. As you'll see on the marking there, it says 220 UF and 25 volts, which is good. Now, I actually happen to purchase several of these on eBay, which is just kind of more of the same thing. So it's about 5 times as strong, and it's also a 25 volt capacitor. So in relation to how big it is here in the tender, I could probably fit several of those if I wanted to. So I'm going to experiment with how one works out, and if I have room or the need to, maybe I'll add more of them. I actually picked these up to work on some interior lighting, and I was going to do flicker-free lighting with these. But I'm going to see how it works in here. So for the decoder itself, these don't actually come with any kind of quick plug on them, so you kind of have to hardwire them. So what I'm doing is, off of the factory decoder here, which these decoders are crap. Don't use these. Even if you intend on not running sound in your engine, you just want to run it DC only. Invest in an NCE or even a Digitrax for that matter. Just something. These factory Bachmann decoders are absolute junk. So what I did was basically I'm going to snip this harness off. So then this is what's left over from that. And then pretty much I'm just going to wire this harness into this one. And then of course the speakering harness is already on here, and then there's already some wires which are going to go to my capacitor. So in the next step here, we'll have that part finished. Okay, so I got the decoder in here, and pretty much everything is set in place here. And pretty much what we're looking at here is the capacitor, which I have on that side, and then the original board that was here is now two-sided taped over here. The part where the decoder meets the harness plug that I was making is here in this bundle of electrical tape here, which everything has its own heat shrink connection in there. The speaker is here, and this white stuff is the micro crystal clear that's drying. So once that dries, that'll dry completely clear, and then make a pretty much an airtight seal to that. And then I just have the decoder Basically just kind of taped in place there over top of the speaker baffle. So we're going to button it up next here and then start some CV programming. An obvious question here would be how much can it pull? So I have about 20 cars hooked up to it right now, which is probably equivalent to at least 10 passenger cars, if not a little bit more. I would hook more on, but I simply don't have the space at the moment. So we're going to go to speed step 1. Now keep in mind, starting about right here, it actually starts to go uphill a little bit because this room is not even. So we're going to go speed step 1. Which is an absolute crawl. Doesn't really seem to be having any trouble. Increase a little bit of speed here. Now it's really on that grade now. Slow it back down to 1. Doesn't really seem to have any trouble with it, so I'd say it could probably do a little bit more. Okay, so you saw what it could do there. I've actually been looking for one of these for quite some time, probably since about the late 90s, but just never really got around to it. I was more of a Norfolk and Western Class J type of guy, so I always had those, but always have appreciated these and have always wanted to get one, so this was finally kind of my Christmas gift to myself this year with some gift cards and Christmas money. So I basically used it to get one of these, and of course I'll need to get all the passenger cars to match it. So that'd be quite an endeavor, probably far more cost than what the actual locomotive and its decoder and all the other little parts and pieces cost. So a couple last things here on the engine. Some of the details of it, because I haven't really saw this mentioned in previous reviews or really any reviews of this engine for that matter, and that's the white wall here on the tires. Actually, presently the engine doesn't have that. It pretty much has all black wheels on there and kind of darkened or a little bit dirty drive gear on there, whereas this is kind of all pristine and clean. And then also the other thing is too, there's a number board that's on here towards the front. It says X4449, which is not present on this one. Not sure if the MTH or the Broadway Limited have that. The other thing of note here is that this is an actual oil tender version. So that's pretty cool. A lot of versions of this still have coal in it, which this engine does not run coal anymore as it runs in California. And in California you can't run coal, so they've pretty much all been converted to fuel oil. So it does have the oil tender, which is pretty cool. Some fixes for this. It obviously comes with the Bachmann plastic couplers, which aren't very good. I got rid of those in favor of KD. The rear takes kind of your standard 148 KD number 5 scale coupler number 50 or 158. In the front, it does require a little bit longer one. So like kind of like a KD 146 will work for that. The other thing was that it did continue to uncouple right here on the drawbar. So I actually kind of bent this up a little bit. It's just a little thin piece of metal, and just had to kind of push up on that a little bit so it kind of goes up at an angle a little bit. That kind of keeps that from uncoupling. There are two settings on here. You can actually use the closer one, and there's still plenty of clearance because there's not really any walkways or anything between these, and this little temporary setup here is running about 19-inch radius, which it will run on, but it does noticeably struggle a little bit in the corners, so probably easier to run this on 22, 24, maybe even better. And I think it'll run a lot smoother on that. Overall, for the price I paid, I got this on a 15% off sale. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 10% off. And it was originally listed for about $150, so I ended up getting the engine for about $135, which is about as good as you can do on a steam engine, especially with a 484. It's kind of a bigger one. It's not like a little 280 or something like that. It's a pretty big steam engine. So great price on that, and then the decoder itself is about $64. Used a TCS WOW speaker in it, which is about $7. So overall, that was pretty much my total cost of everything that I have in it. One other thing of note, I saw some documentation about these Econami decoders that they are able to accept 4-ohm speakers. I didn't find that to be correct. I tried 2 different 4-ohm speakers, and neither one would give me any sound. So I'm guessing that might have been a misprint, or somebody documented something wrong there. But it didn't seem to accept anything except for an 8-ohm speaker, so that's what I went with. And I just used a 28mm TCS WOW on the tender, and then I also used that with an ESU baffle. So 2 of them together work pretty well. Pretty much as far as the decoder performance, a couple last things of note on that. The slow speed control and the overall motor control was not quite as good as what you'd find in TCS or Lock Sound, and I sort of expected that. You're not going to get really that much better performance out of a lesser expensive decoder. Though I will say that this Econami decoder in many ways is more advanced than what the actual $95 Tsunami with the 9-pin plug that you may find. This is actually much better. The sounds are a lot more clear, especially if you hook up a proper speaker to it. You can really get some good results. This engine has as much bass in it as any of my Broadway steam engines, and just as much volume. The whistle on this is fantastic, and from what I've heard, it seems to be the most accurate for this particular engine. And that was mostly why I went with this decoder. The MTH and the Broadway versions of this engine, while they may have some other things that are more accurate on the engine, or even maybe some things that aren't as accurate, or about twice the price. You really can't find one of those for less than $500. And on eBay, sometimes they'll go even in excess of $600 or $700. I've saw them go that high before. So for an engine that was probably less than $250 altogether with everything that's in it, not bad at all. So pretty happy with it. If you can find one of these and you're really into this engine, I suggest picking up one. This particular combination works pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I think that it will serve my needs. So some more things coming around, so just wanted to finish this one up here and get it out there.